How's it going, everyone? This is my Toyota RAV4. I'm here in Topanga State Park just to film my setup inside the car. I've taken a few photos and I have a couple videos coming out on my recent trip to Colorado, where I spent 3 weeks living out of this thing, which to a lot of people sounds like a pretty small environment to live in. But once you remove the seats and put in a bed, it's actually a quite roomy setup the way I have it. So today I'm going to take you on a tour and just kind of show you the ins and outs and how everything works inside the car. All right, so now we're in the back of the tailgate. Back here, I'm gonna keep a couple of things that are just bulky and just live back here. The floor is waterproof, so that is important. On my trip, I was skiing and snowboarding pretty much every day while I was out there, so having a place for my equipment to dry off was very important. I don't want a lot of moisture to build up in here, so having the waterproof floor was very important. So I have my ski boots, snowboard boots. I'm also going to have my dry food and food that needs to be cooked. So in here it's just like protein bars, trail mix, that kind of thing. And then in here we're going to have like vegetables and these pre-made meals that are just scrambled eggs ready to go. So, and then in this blue box I have my Jetboil, my pan, my mini stove, plates, and fuel, all right in this little box. This is pretty much my entire kitchen for the moment. Back here I also keep my snowboards and my window shades. They're held in place by this seat belt, which is super convenient. I also do have my ice scraper and brush that just kind of lives back here with the snowboards. All right, so one of the nicer things about having a Toyota RAV4 from 2006 is that the spare tire, as you saw, was on the trunk. So on the swing gate, it is completely out there. It's a full-size spare, and I really appreciate that. But that also gives me a ton of space underneath my trunk floor. So back here I have just things that I don't really get to all the time. So emergency supply stuff like matches, lighter fluid, hand warmers. We also have an emergency blanket back here. We have the ultralight chair, some extra towels, some extra blankets, motor oil, Clorox wipes, antifreeze, windshield wiper fluid, which is super important actually. And then my chains, of course, all live back here. Cool, so now I'm in the back of the car. I have my lounge chair here. It actually folds flat and folds into a bunch of different positions depending on how I want to sit. I also have my clothing storage back here. Things like my suitcase and my snow clothing take up quite a bit of room because snow clothing is very bulky, and I like to have different options. So everything from like my different pairs of pants, jackets, base layers, I got my gloves and my helmet, my goggles, they all fit right in here. So that's actually been really convenient. I also have the snowboards. Now I have them in the hanging position, so that way when I'm getting to my clothing, it's actually pretty easy. Most of the time I can just move this guy over and I'm able to get into the trunk this way. Behind the trunk I also have my dirty laundry, trash can, and my day bag for going to the local rec centers for a shower and to use their hot tubs. Alright, so after a day of snowboarding, I want to work on my laptop or watch some video. Basically how it works is I'm going to set up my desk right there. I'm going to grab my laptop and my mouse. And then I'm ready to roll. Being able to just work comfortably like this was really important for me, because when you're editing, you just want to be in a nice, comfortable environment. And this was, honestly, having the chair with the leg support was super helpful the entire trip. All right, so and then when I am done with my laptop, go ahead and I'll put that guy up front temporarily. I can just reach back and actually grab all my cooking supplies and my paper towels, and I can actually set up with the desk, set up my entire cook system pretty easily by just popping these all together. And I basically just cook and eat right on this table. So it's served a lot of purposes on my trip and has worked out really well for me. Then when you're done, just fold up the legs like that. And generally we'll just leave it right there. All right, and so up front is where I'm gonna keep my Goal Zero battery, which I can charge either from the solar panel on top of the roof or through the car. So I'll have this wire come out of the center console and plugs right in, and that'll charge the car while I'm driving, or I can hook up the solar panels and charge that way. I never ran out of battery the entire trip, so that thing worked really well. What I did find out was you have to keep the battery above 32 degrees or else it won't charge. So I added a ton of foam, so when the doors close, it creates a little pocket here. And then I also use my backpack where I keep my laptop, GoPros, everything else electronic up front. I put it all in this footwell here because behind is the heater, like the foot heater vent. And so before I go to bed, I'll run the heater and it creates a nice pocket of warm air back here that keeps this thing from getting too cold. And then the foam keeps the floor temperature from getting up into the battery. That worked out really well, and I'm really pleased with how that went. All right, so when it's time to put on the snowboard boots, this chair actually folds up, which is actually super helpful. So what I'll do is I'll move the whole thing forward. The legs actually go above the battery, kind of shielding them and making sure no one can see them from the outside. It's all my electronics, so I want to keep them safe. Then the back folds up like this. You got to give it the right clicks. And then I'll usually keep the desk on top just to hold it in place. Then from there, I just set up my floor mats and I hop in the back, and from here I can put on and take off my ski boots or my snowboard boots. All the water and snow just collects right onto these mats, and I can throw it out before I leave the parking lot of the resort. All right, so now for how the bed works. This is probably the most important part and one of the more technically difficult things that I did in here. Everything else pretty much I just bought and threw in here. So now I'm going to show you what it's like to set up my bed every night. First things first, we're going to move the front seat forward as far as it'll go. Then we're going to tilt it back. With most builds, people will tilt the seat forward, but in mine, you actually tilt it back because we actually want to get everything in the car to a really low level. I'm gonna put that there, drop that down. Now the only tall thing I have up is the snowboards right here. Then from there, I'm gonna pull out all my straps my messy setup. One day I'll actually clean up the whole setup so it'll actually look decent, but for now there's just a lot of stuff hanging. What I'll do is I have these ratcheting pulleys where if I just support the bed and release the pulley, it'll start to fall down just like that. Then I get on top, release it some more, maybe a little bit more, and lock it down so it's nice and snug. Then from there, I'll release the front pulley, wrap this underneath, wrap this underneath, and then I'll level the bed out by pulling until the whole thing is nice and taut. So right now it's kind of tilting, so I'll just add a little bit and it's nice and good. Then all I have to do is crawl up on top here, take my shoes off, and that's it. I'm in bed and I'm ready to go to sleep. So this setup has worked out really great. A couple nice things about the bed being suspended from the ceiling is that when I'm driving, it's just up here with all my bedding and I don't have to think about it. It's not in the way of the floor or storage or anything. So all I have to do is lower it. Another good thing that I learned is that if you're parked on a hill like I am now, and pretty much every time I parked, I was on some sort of hill, and with these straps, I can actually level the bed in both directions, so front to back and side to side. So here's how the bed works. I have removed the stock handles from the car, and I was able to use drywall anchors and eye bolts that fit into them. So there's a drywall anchor behind the sheet metal and then an eye bolt holding onto that. And then from there I have a piece of rope that connects the two together. And then from there I have my ratcheting pulley. This one has my paracord that actually helps keep the bed from tilting from one direction to the other. Back there I have another anchor point for my feet area, and then I did the same thing with the front grab handles of the car. So I'm gonna have one ratcheting pulley back there, and then over on this side I have another ratcheting pulley. This whole setup can be done without having to leave the car, which was important for being stealthy. It started to get pretty cold with my feet being right by the rear window, even with the Reflectix keeping the insulation level high. So what I did was I went out and I bought just some craft foam, and I actually used just paper clips, binder clips, and now my sleeping bag actually fits into here, and this alone is so warm. This kept my feet completely insulated every night, even when it was like 5 degrees out. Super helpful to have this little piece of foam over my regular camping mattress. The bed itself is constructed of this is electrical conduit that I bent. I learned how to bend these corners and actually connected them together with pipe clamps. So there's just 2 pieces of conduit bent into a rectangle connected with pipe clamps, and then I ran rope back and forth all the way down to either end for my mattress, then my mattress, and then the foam which has kept me super warm and super comfortable the whole trip. All right, so once it's time to raise the bed back up, all you have to do is you just kind of tuck yourself over the edge here, drop down. I kind of like to flatten out my bed so it actually compresses better. I'm actually making my bed for once. Just like that. Then you reach under and you can just start pulling up on the ratchet. Then I go ahead and I sit underneath, and I've actually learned to use my feet to kind of push and pull the ratchet at the same time, so that way it's nice and taut. There we go. Just like that. Then go ahead, tighten up the, I'll tighten up the other one. Just like that. And then I'll tuck away all these ugly straps. So it's still a work in progress. There's still things I wish were easier and quicker. If it was up to me, I would just have the whole bed like drop down using like one winch that lowers and drops the whole thing. But down to 2 ratchets, each can hold up to 800 pounds. And then the rear strap, this thing is not too bad to lower and put back up every day. I did it for 3 weeks when I was in Colorado, and honestly, it really isn't that hard. It could be easier, but it's not the worst system out there when it comes to the procedure on how to lower and raise the bed. All right, so that is my Toyota RAV4 miniature stealth camper setup. I am very proud, and I worked really hard on getting the bed to lift and lower and making that a very easy system to put into the car. The whole point of my setup here is that I can, now that I'm home, take the bed out, put the seats in, and have it just be my regular daily driver once again. So no major modifications to the car that can't be reversed. So if you like this video, go ahead, hit the like button. If you want to see more videos of what I do when it comes to snowboarding, mountain biking, and a little bit of miniature van life, go ahead and subscribe down below. And if you have any questions about the rig or have any suggestions to make it better, just leave me a comment. I'll read through those and I'll get back to you guys. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.